Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is approximately 11:40 p.m. at night on the longest day of the year, the first day of summer, the summer solstice, June 20th, 2019. We are about 21 minutes away, depending on where you are here on the East Coast and what your clock says, from Father's Day. And that's what I'm here to talk about today is Father's Day. Father's Day can have many meanings for many different people. First, I want to get out, before I get into my stories, I want to get out and give a shout out to all the dads out there that are busting their ass to put food on the table, to pay for clothing, to pay for housing. And I would also like to say a special shout out to the mothers that are doing it alone, because for whatever reason, the father's gone, the mothers that have to play both roles. So happy Father's Day to you. To the single fathers battling over custody, working hard to see their kids. Maybe they're not allowed to see their kids. Maybe the courts have played them wrong. I wish them Godspeed on this Father's Day. Thank you, Mr. World Changer, and happy Father's Day to you too. What Father's Day means to me. In 9 days, my oldest, Andrew the 10th wonder of the world, my Andrew will be celebrating his 11th birthday. So for 11 years now, I have had the pleasure of being called Dad. The morning of June 29th, 2009 was special. Obviously, I was stationed away from home, about 96 miles away, living in a state-owned house, paying rent out of my paycheck every 2 weeks, and working as many doubles as I could so I could be home with my pregnant wife. I knew she was in labor. She had told me such the night before, but she also told me to stay put because it could have been another case of false labor. So I stayed put. And I know I should have gone to sleep, but I didn't. I stayed up and I watched episodes of Boston Public that I had on DVD. Good show, by the way. Miss it. About 7:30, the phone rang. And it was my wife saying that she hadn't been asleep at all, and she was trying to find a ride to the hospital. Because although my dad was living with us at the time, he couldn't drive, and she obviously couldn't drive in her situation. So she'd found from a coworker's mother she was going to be able to get to the hospital. All right. So I'm fine. I've got her car. Actually, she's got my truck at home because of the gas mileage and all that in 2009. But I've got her car, a Chrysler Sebring at the time. And I run upstairs to knock on the house manager's door to tell him it's time. I'm off. And he goes, you have a flat tire? He had worked the night before and just gotten home. No, I didn't know I had a flat tire. He goes, don't worry about it. Go get in the shower. We'll take care of your tire. So I got in the shower. Now, all I had for a spare at the time was a donut. So he gets a couple of the other guys up, and they run down, and they change my tire for me. And I get on the road. It's pouring rain. Upstate New York, late June day, it's pouring rain. So I drive 96 miles back to the house in a pouring rainstorm on a donut. I get to the house. Obviously, my wife and father are gone with the kid, or well, the baby to be, right? So I get in my truck now. So I have a little better traction, and I get on the roads to Plattsburgh, to Champlain Valley Medical Center. I get there in time. Also, at the same time, my in-laws had gotten a phone call that morning, and they lived 3 hours away in north of Toronto, New York, where I am now. And my father-in-law had just started vacation, and he was prepping the camper for the trip because there was a scheduled C-section for July 1st. The original due date was July 4th, but they'd moved the C-section up due to the holiday, obviously. And so we get in the camper, or they get in the camper, and they fly through the Adirondacks, and they make it in time. The doctor comes in. I don't remember the doctor's name. The doctor comes in. We do C-section. Andrew's born. Everything's fine. I'm a father. June 29th, 2009, at approximately 12:50 p.m. Now, I'd been an uncle for 9 years at that point. My oldest niece is 9 years old, well, almost 9 at that point. She's 19 now, but but this was the first time being a father. 30 years old, I became a father. So, a couple years go by, Andrew starts to grow. I'm still stationed away on the road. I'm missing things, but, doing the best I can. Early 2012, we find out we're expecting our second. Let me backtrack a little bit. That's going to be a little bit different story. I, at the time, was an atheist. I will get into that story a little bit for another show, but around the beginning and end of 98 and 99, things had happened, and I gave up believing. Fast forward to 2012. It's a rough pregnancy. My wife really didn't handle pregnancy well to begin with, but it is a rough pregnancy. The due date's around October 9th or so, but little Miss Lorelei decides she wants to come early. Now, I'm on vacation. I had scheduled it all that this time I would be home, and we're living over here in north of Toronto, New York. So, thank you, BJ. We'll talk to you later. So, the morning of October 1st, I'm actually supposed to return to work that day, but she had, again, been in labor, and all night long had a rough night, and I slept, and I sleep as good as I can for, this is before I had been diagnosed with sleep apnea and all that, so, but I slept as well as I could. Early morning, again, it's happening. So I call into work, and I said, guys, I'm not coming to work. I'll call you back when the baby comes. So I get to the hospital in Watertown, and we get there. My mother-in-law, she's with us. Now, here's something about me. I like to stay north of the border during pregnancy. I don't want to see what's going on down yonder. But my mother-in-law was there, and she was willing to, see the miracle of childbirth. Not me. I had watched a video in 7th grade health class that scarred me for life. So I'm up by my wife's head. Our regular doctor isn't there that day. Because, again, it was early. We were a couple days early, Our regular doctor isn't there. So we get this other guy in, this phenomenal doctor. I can't remember his name. But there were some problems. And the doctor had called for help. They called for a team to come in because things weren't going right. My mother-in-law looks at me, and what she said was, say a prayer. That's not what I heard. Somebody spoke through my mother-in-law to me and said, she's stuck. For some reason, compelled by a higher power, I reached over and I grabbed my wife's leg and I yanked it back as hard as I could, and Lorelei came out. So later that day, I'm holding my precious little baby girl, and through her eyes, I found God. October 1st, 2012. And that's my story of how I became a father. Now, I have a wonderful father who had a wonderful father who, Native American, known to many by his Native American name, the Mighty Black Wolf. He was born on December 7th, 1952, in Lake Placid, New York. And he would have two younger sisters, but he was the oldest of the family. He lost his father due to a car accident in 1969 or 70. And he entered the Marines toward the end of the Vietnam War. He comes out in January of 1978. He gets invited to a surprise birthday party for a woman he doesn't know. Also a Native American woman, although not as much as him, but at the end of her life, she went by the name of Sky Eyes Crying. But he meets her and he falls madly in love. Maybe someday I'll be able to tell my own story of that, but that's for another time. This is January of 78. They are married on February 18th, 1978. And I come along on April 13th, 1979. So they had a good, my brother was around, Stonewall. Sometimes you see him on Stack to the Future videos commenting. He was 5 years old. But, so for the first 18 years of my life, I lived with my father. My mom passed away in 1996, and my father was there. Although after my mom's death, he had emotional issues. He had lose a wife in your early 40s. So I can't imagine. So I move on. I move out. I have my own life. I get my own career. I get married. I have two kids. My dad in 2007 gets hit by a car. His head hits the windshield and then he bounces back ahead on the ground. He ends up in a coma in Burlington, a medically induced coma, so they can perform surgery on the brain, and he has a TBI, a traumatic brain injury. And what this injury did was destroyed his short-term memory. You could have a conversation with him, and he'd forget what you're talking about, that same conversation. Part of the drawbacks of that, though, were that he randomly would change his life constantly. Meet somebody, he moved to Kansas. He kept disappearing on us. In 2012, about a month before Lorelai was born, I get the news that he's got cancer. So my father-in-law and I make the trip up to Messina, New York to see him. We can't get him to agree to come live with us. We can't get him to, he doesn't want me to control his life. I have since found out about an organization called the United Helpers that is relatively new. I don't think they were around when he was sick, but boy, it would have been great to have at least not in St. Lawrence County, it would have been great to have them then. Because there was not a lot I could do. He was not, his TBI was not severe enough to step in and force him to do anything. We had to do it on his own. Every 6 months or so, we would talk on the phone, and he'd always say things are good, he's fine, he's healthy. Every now and then I'd get a call from his roommate saying no, he's not. But I couldn't get him to come live with us. April 9th, 2018. I get the phone call from his roommate again. Bob, your dad's not doing well. The cancer spread. Started out in his thyroid. It's in his skin. It's in his blood. It's in his lungs. He's in bad shape. He's in a hospital in Governor. Governor is about 50 miles from where I live. So about an hour. Really random. But he was in Governor. So I don't know what the hospital in Governor is. I text a friend. She tells me how to get there. We walk in and he looks like a ghost. I mean, he looks nothing. Here's this big, strapping Native American Marine, 6 foot, 240 pounds, and he looked like a skeleton. Sad sight to see. His skin had lost its pigment. He was no longer that nice dark complexion that he always carried. He was, pale, white, about as white as the rings of my eyes. But he was in good spirits. He had a broken neck. He had a broken bone in his neck, so he was having to move himself around with a brace and stuff. But he was in good spirits, and he believed he was going to be cancer free. That was part of the brain injury. He wasn't cancer free. It was terminal at this point. And my wife went out and she spoke to the nurse, and the nurse basically told him, like, there's nothing we can do. He had fought this battle for 6 years, and it was coming to an end. So I went back and forth every couple of days. My brother got up to see him on the afternoon of April 18th. I went up. My brother was there, another friend, a couple of friends. He was getting real tired. So my brother took his leave, and I wanted to stay because I knew that this was going to be rough. So I sat there next to him and we watched, what did we watch? Not Pawn Stars, but one of those on TLC or something, Storage Wars, I think it was. Oh, American Pickers, that's what we watched. Good show. Haven't been able to watch it since, but good show. And he keeps like he's drifting off to sleep, but he doesn't want to sleep. He keeps waking himself up and he's talking. And finally it dawns on me. I'm standing in the window, looking out the window, and I think he's falling asleep, so I'm trying to look away so he can pass. But he wakes himself back up, and it dawns on me. He doesn't want me to be there. He had said earlier in the week that he wanted to go at sunrise. He doesn't want me there. I knew that. I could tell. So I said goodbye, and it says, this is Wednesday. And I said to him, well, you take care, and you do what you got to do, and I will see you, or I'll see you tomorrow or Friday. And I left. I drove home the 50 miles back to where we live, and I kept expecting my phone to ring, but it didn't. The evening came, had dinner. I'm sitting there, I'm watching the Roseanne show back before she got herself fired on demand, and the phone rings. It's a nurse. It's a relatively new nurse from Governor. She's not one that had been there all week for the 10 days or whatever. And she's like, something's wrong with your father. He's not acting right. Okay, I know. I said, call me. I'll be home all night. Call me if something changes. So that night I go to bed. Now bear with me because this is a story I've told. Even when texting it out, I've not been able to get through this story. I am a very spiritual person, especially after my daughter was born, but not talking to God. I've been able to talk to my mother. Believe it or not, believe what you will, my mother, I believe, was staying with us, watching over my kids, because we caught them both talking to somebody in their bedrooms over the baby monitors at their young ages, and both of them would point to my mom's picture. And one night, we heard a voice on the baby monitor, and as we stopped to listen, some here, shh. But shortly before 2016, my daughter was outgrowing it, and my mom came to me in a dream and said, I'm going to be going away for a while. The kids don't see me anymore. But when you need me, I'll be there. So April 18th, 2018, I needed her. I went to bed that night and I called for her. I said, Mom, Dad's in a rough way. He needs to go home. I said, will you do me a favor and take him home? I got up that morning at 5 a.m. to get ready for work. Showered, shaved, headed into work. When I got to work, I checked in with the supervisor and I told him, this is what's happening. Good chance the phone's going to ring. Okay, well, if it happens, we'll get you right out of here. So I went down back. I'm working my post, making sure everything's running smoothly. Another coworker comes in. We're shooting the shit, talking. 7:45, the phone rings. The supervisor. He said, Vince, Ferguson's coming to relieve you. Get your stuff, come on up front. Mark, the guy I was working with, looked right at me and he knew. As I hung up the phone, he said, go get your stuff, I got you. I believe, as real as I'm saying, talking to you now, that as the sun came up, because he passed away, his time of death was listed as 6:20 a.m. And if you look at the sunrise for April 19th, 2018, that was right about right. And as sure as I'm sitting here talking to you now, I believe that around 6:20 a.m., Mom came and took him home. It's now after midnight here on the East Coast, and you're watching Vinny's Take, as it's now Father's Day. So those are my father stories. How I became a father and how my father passed on. I've told my mom's story before. You can find that here on the channel. Now I've told my dad's. So the Black Wolf, my father, wherever you are tonight, looking over, no doubt. Happy Father's Day. And to all of you watching out there in YouTube land, happy Father's Day. Thank you for watching. As always, I'm Vinny Benson. God bless our real fathers out there. God bless the men, whether they're biological or that step up and do the job. And to all the Disney dads that post on Facebook but never actually do anything, well, enjoy your day too, I guess. Much love from Vinny Benson. God bless America, and God bless all the dads.